In this lesson, we will be discussing the circle of fifths, sometimes also referred to as the cycle of fifths. In a previous lesson on tetrachords, we looked at the mechanics used to build all of the scales that use sharps and flats. In examining these principles closer, we will in effect be creating a comprehensive circle of fifths reference chart that contains all of the major and minor key signatures while showing their relationships to one another. We know that the key of C major used all of the natural notes or white keys on the piano, and that the relative minor of C major is A minor. Before we go any further, we should take a moment to clarify a few things. Although we often use the words scale and key interchangeably, the term key signature, more precisely, is the area between the clef and the time signature, where the specifically arranged sharps or flats are laid out for the entire composition. This is a kind of shorthand method that helps to clean up the score. For example, instead of having to write out all of the note-altering symbols, called accidentals, throughout a piece we can simply write them out once in the key signature, and then it is understood that all of those notes are to be adjusted accordingly. Improvising musicians will assume a mutual understanding of all of these same concepts as they economically state a key, a progression, and then proceed to count in the beat. Let's move our circle of fifths chart over to the right of the page in order to make room for a work area where we will lay out all of the natural notes of the C major scale forwards through the musical alphabet in a clockwise fashion. This is where we will figure out the sequence of sharps. Remember the tetrachord sharp scale statement? Let's rephrase the first part of that statement with the following directive. Each new sharp scale is built on the fifth degree of the previous scale. When working with scales and chords, we often make use of logical if statements. These statements always begin the same way. If X is 1, what is Y? Exploring the circle of fifths, the first question we need to answer is, if C is 1, what is 5? So counting up the scale clockwise, we arrive at the start note for the next key, G. Going back and looking at the second half of the original tetrachord statement, the next question we have to ask is, if G is 1, what is 7? And counting up the scale, we arrive at F. However, we can also see that if we simply acknowledge G as Do, count backwards one note, and raise it with a sharp, we will be creating the correct T-Do semitone interval, completing the G major scale. The G major scale key signature has one sharp, F sharp. Remembering that the relative minor scale is always built on the sixth degree of the major scale, the next question we need to ask is, if G is 1, what is 6? Counting up, we find that the relative minor key of G major is E minor. So here is the procedure for completing this half of the circle of fifths. Understanding that X is simply the variable, a note that will change as we move through the cycle, there are three logical questions that need to be answered. 1. To find the start note for the next closely related key, we ask, if X is 1, what is 5? 2. To find the next sharp to add to the key signature, we ask, if X is 1, what is 7? And 3. To find the relative minor key, we ask, if X is 1, what is 6? In solfege terminology, if X is Do, then we ask, what is So, Ti, and La? Following the three steps we just outlined, let's continue and finish this half of the chart. 5 up from G is D. 7 up or 1 back from D is C. Raise C to C sharp. The key signature for D major has two sharps, F sharp and C sharp. 6 up from D, the relative minor of D major is B minor. 5 up from D is A. 7 up or 1 back from A is G. Raise G to G sharp. The key signature for A major has three sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. 6 up from A, the relative minor of A major is F sharp minor. 5 up from A is E. 7 up or 1 back from E is D. Raise D to D sharp. The key signature for E major has 4 sharps: F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. 6 up from E, the relative minor of E major, is C sharp minor. 5 up from E is B. 7 up or 1 back from B is A. Raise A to A sharp. The key signature for B major has 5 sharps: F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, and A sharp. 6 up from B, the relative minor of B major, is G sharp minor. 5 up from B is F sharp. 7 up or 1 back from F sharp is E. Raise E to E sharp. The key signature for F sharp major has 6 sharps: F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, and E sharp. 6 up from F sharp is D sharp minor. 5 up from F sharp is C sharp. 7 up or 1 back from C sharp is B. Raise B to B sharp. The key signature for C sharp major has 7 sharps: F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp, and B sharp. 6 up from C sharp, the relative minor of C sharp major is A sharp minor. In case you haven't already guessed, it is because each new key being 5 notes away from the previous key that we call this the circle of fifths.